Hello, music fans. You're watching Death by Unicorn, where I talk about metal, rock, and prog. And today I'm going to walk you through 33 albums that I'm planning on listening to. They're coming out in July and August 2024. Two of these I've already heard, so I can give my quick first impressions on them. Uh, but the rest I still have yet to hear. And hopefully you find some new stuff on this list that you add to your list of music to check out. And let me know down in the comments if there's anything else that's coming out in July and August that you think I'd enjoy. Let's start right up with Focus and their album Focus 12. So this one I have heard. It came out on July 5th. This is the 14th album by this Dutch band. I guess some may say it's their 12th album, hence the name, but I think Focus 11 was actually their 13th album because Focus 10 and Focus 11, in between those albums, they released an album called Golden Oldies and another one called Focus 8.5 Beyond the Horizon under the name Focus and Friends. Um, I know Focus mostly for their amazing song Hocus Pocus, the one with the yodeling. I've only heard a couple of their albums in full before this, but I've liked everything I've heard by them. I've been meaning to get more into them. I enjoy their jazzy prog rock sound. I know some of their albums are instrumental and some have vocals. I was hoping this would be one that had vocals, but unfortunately it was fully instrumental. All the instrumentals are very good and jazzy, nice to listen to, but I don't think I'll go back to it much because nothing really hooked me. So I'm going to put this one in my good tier. The next one I have on my list is by this band that I can't pronounce. Maybe it's Piah Mater, um, and their album Under the Shadow of a Foreign Sun. This is the third album by this Brazilian band, and this is also one that I've heard before. This is, I guess, progressive black and death metal with doom and heavy metal influences. And their riffs just sound so evil. They sound like early and mid-career Opeth. There's a lot of intense growls, but also some great clean singing, a lot of heavy distorted riffs, but also some nice clean and jazzy and folky passages. I listened to two songs ahead of the album release, Follow Gardens and Infringes, and they got me really excited to check out the whole album. The whole album continued the excellence displayed on those songs, and I'm going to put this one in my near masterpiece tier. It's almost certainly going to be in my top 25 of the year at the end of the year. Next, I'm going to talk about maybe the only hip hop album that I'll listen to this year. And just out of curiosity, it's Eminem and his album, The Death of Slim Shady, Coup de Grâce. And this is the 12th album by this American rapper who's very famous. I used to be a big fan of Eminem. He was my favorite artist when I was 13 years old, before I got really into System of a Down, then Protest the Hero, then prog metal, metalcore, post-hardcore. Then I pretty much abandoned rap music. I'm very curious to check this out though, just for nostalgia's sake, but I'm guessing I won't really like it because I've kind of moved on in my tastes and haven't really been into hip hop for a while. And then another one on July 12th, I have the Radicant with We Ascend, which is an EP, and it's by this former Anathema singer, Vincent Kavanagh. This is his new project. If you're a fan of Anathema, Porcupine Tree, and the Pineapple Thief, but want to hear a more electronic influence version of that, check this out. It's like atmospheric ambient electronic rock. It's got some prog, some metal influence in there as well. And then on the same day, July 12th, In Heart's Wake is releasing Incarnation. This is a metalcore band, and it's the sixth album by this Australian band. I heard three early release singles. I enjoyed them all, so I put this on my list to check out. Windwaker on the same day, July 12th, is releasing Hyperviolence, the second album by this Australian band. This is metalcore with alternative rock and hip hop influences. And I heard two early release singles from this. I enjoyed them. Also put it on my list to check out. I also heard an EP that they dropped earlier this year that I enjoyed. Now on to July 19th. The big one that day for me is Deep Purple releasing their latest album, Equals One. And this is Obviously a legendary hard rock band. It's the 23rd album by this band from the UK. They're still going strong after putting out their first two albums all the way back in 1968. This is hard rock with progressive rock and blues influences. While I didn't love their last album, Turning to Crime, since it was more of a covers album and I prefer their original albums, I think the two before that, Infinite and Whoosh, are among some of the best albums they've ever done and comparable to their classics like Machine Head, which is an amazing album. The singles from this album, Equals One, sound like the band still knows how to rock and in their bluesy rock style. They're one of the best at that style, if not the best at all of all time in that style. I hope they have some more progressive rock sounding songs on this album like they had on Infinite. That would make me really happy. If it's all kind of bluesy rock, I'm sure it'll be good, but it won't uh, be my favorite unless it's got some proggy stuff on it. Another one on July 19th. This is a bit more underground. I think it's this band called Ursus and their album Circle of Sighs, the fifth album by this American band. Now, this is progressive death metal with free jazz, industrial synthwave, doom metal, and grindcore influences. I listened to the opening track, Ursus One, and it's very uniquely weird, avant-garde, experimental death metal that's very progressive all over the place. That got me interested in checking it out. Now let's jump over to July 26th. Yang is releasing Rejoice, which is the fifth album by this French band, and this is progressive art rock with jazz, electronic, metal, experimental, and avant-garde influences. I heard the song Step Inside ahead of time. That got me interested in checking this out. Fans of weird stuff like Bubble Math and Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum, of that weird and fun stuff, should like this band. And then another one on the 26th of July is Tomy Laisto releasing Penumbra. It's the debut album by this Finnish musician. It's acoustic progressive rock, nice acoustic guitar playing here and songwriting on the early single I heard ahead of time this summer that features Derek Sherinian of Dream Theater and a great solo artist in his own right. I always like hearing music with Derek Sherinian on keyboards, so that got me interested in checking out the rest of the album. The songwriting sounds great too on that song. So looking forward to hearing Penumbra by Tomy Laisto. Then I've got a couple post-hardcore ones on July 26th. State Faults is releasing Children of the Moon. This is post-hardcore with punk, emo, screamo, and progressive influences. The fourth album by this American band. I heard the early single here, Blood Moon. And I always love hearing post-hardcore songs with 7 beats per bar that change time signature to 4/4 and have that progressive influence in them. The screaming is pretty intense, so you have to be ready for that screamo style of vocals on this one. And then Kaonashi is releasing an EP called A Second Chance at Forever, The Brilliant Lies from Casey Diamond. This is post-hardcore with progressive metal and gent influences. And they're an American band. I heard the early single Blood Red Camry Dance Party, and it's got a catchy, almost pop punk vocal line with a lot of vocal harmonies. So I'm curious to hear the rest of this album. And last one on my list from July 26th is Category 7 with their self-titled debut album. This is an American supergroup that features Armored Saint and former Anthrax frontman John Bush on vocals, Phil Demmel on guitars, who's a former Machine Head guitarist, Adrenaline Mob guitarist Mike Orlando, Exodus bassist Jack Gibson, and Overkill and Shadows Fall drummer Jason Bittner. This is just modern sounding, groovy heavy metal with thrash metal influences, with all clean vocals, but very powerful vocals for fans of Adrenaline Mob. Now let's jump into August. For August 2nd, I've got Symbiotic Tomorrow releasing The Final Call, the third album by this Irish progressive death metal band. I sampled a bit of their previous album before this, and while the production sounds a bit raw for my taste, the guitar riffing and drumming sound well done and fun. I'm not sure about their harsh vocals. They didn't sound the best to me, but maybe they'll grow on me. I'm just checking it out because it's prog metal, and I check out there's a lot of prog metal that came out this year, so I obviously can't check it all out, but anything where I hear a little bit and it sounds good and I want to check it out. So this one sounded cool. And then on the same day, Sonagi is releasing Everything is Longing. This is post-hardcore with punk, emo, and screamo influences. And I've never listened to an album by Sonagi before, but I did hear the song Rain Shadow from this EP. It got me interested in checking this out. There's harsh screamo vocals here, really raw production, so you have to be ready for that. I guess August 2nd is the day of raw production stuff, so that'll be interesting. And then on August 9th, a big one that I'm really looking forward to is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard releasing Flight B741. This is the 26th album by this prolific Australian band whose first album dropped way back in 2012. So they've been averaging more than 2 albums a year in terms of releases since then. Almost every album that they put out is completely different, and the band completely reinvents themselves. So there's no telling what this could sound like, but I love almost all their albums, so I'm excited for this. Majority of their stuff, if you were to categorize it, I'd say is psychedelic rock, but they have a bunch of prog rock albums. They have heavy metal album, like thrash metal albums, and they have a dream pop album and like a spaghetti western album. They've got all sorts of different genres going on. So I'm not actually sure what this one will sound like because I haven't heard anything from it yet. It could really be anything, but if it's King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, I'm there. Definitely a band that I'm a huge fan of and saw them live. Love them. Next up is power metal. It's HammerFall and their album Avenge the Fallen, the 13th album by this Swedish band. It's power metal with heavy metal influences. And this is for fans of Blind Guardian, Dragon Force. It's a pretty cheesy band, but a lot of the songs are just fun. They're well played, and the hooks are catchy and delivered with intense vocal power. Then last one that I have for August 9th on my list is 4 Years Strong with Analysis Paralysis, the 8th album by this American band. It's punk rock with pop and melodic hardcore influences. I heard the single Daddy of Mine, which has intense, fast hardcore riffing and harsh vocals at the beginning and then the verses, but then it has this catchy pop hook chorus with clean singing. Really got me interested to hear this album. On August 16th, Falling in Reverse is putting out Popular Monster. This is post-hardcore with metalcore, pop, punk, rap, electronic, and hard rock influences. The 5th album by this American band. The lead singer here, Ronnie Radke, is a divisive figure in rock music, but you just can't deny he can sing, he can scream well, he knows how to write a hook. If you're a fan of Escape the Fate's first album, you should like this. That had Ronnie Radke on vocals. That's my favorite Escape the Fate album. But Falling in Reverse is really bringing in a lot more musical influences and variety than Escape the Fate ever did. They're kind of like if you take the Escape the Fate sound, but then blend in like Sleep Token and Bring Me the Horizon, and then have this like hip hop rap kind of attitude and lyrical delivery from Ronnie Radke. It's a pretty interesting and unique band. Definitely not for everyone, but and I'm not even sure if it's really a band that I'm a huge fan of, but it's one that I'm always curious about. And on August 16th, Dark Tranquillity is releasing End Time Signals. This is the 13th album by this Swedish band. This is melodic death metal for fans of In Flames, Soilwork, and At the Gates. Now let's jump over to August 23rd. There's a lot of releases that day. John Anderson and the Band Geeks releasing True. This is the 16th album by this former Yes lead singer, John Anderson, but I believe it's his first with the backing band called the Band Geeks. This is progressive rock, but I think it's kind of poppy as well, so progressive pop rock. The single I heard ahead of time, Shine On, has really nice vocal harmonies, busy bass riffing like Yes. It sounds like a nice mix of 70s and 80s Yes music. It's pretty accessible and almost pop, but it has enough interesting bits to make it still a progressive rock song. Flesh God Apocalypse is releasing Opera on August 23rd, and this is symphonic technical death metal. It's the sixth album by this Italian band. I heard the single Pendulum, and it's just intensely brutal with death growls and technical guitars. There's clean female vocals on here that provide some melody, but it's a pretty intense, technical, brutal assault of a song. So I'm curious to check out this whole album. And then Motorpsycho is releasing Nay. This is psychedelic rock. It's another band kind of like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard who releases a lot of albums, and they are kind of different from each other. So it could be like psych rock with some indie, alternative, progressive, hard rock influences. They've been going since their first album in 1991. I thought their last album, Yay, was very good, but a little simple. I really thought their previous album, Ancient Astronauts from 2022, was just excellent. Kingdom of Oblivion from 2021 was also very good, but I still haven't done a deep dive on Motorpsycho. I have not checked out their material before that, before 2021. But check this out if you're a fan of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. But like with them, this band is a shapeshifter, so you don't really know what kind of style you're going to get. The early single I heard, Psycholab, was okay, but I do hope to hear some more adventurous stuff from them on this full album. Zeal and Ardor is releasing Grief on the 23rd of August. This is avant-garde black metal with soul, industrial, shoegaze, and melodic death metal influences. Um, Definitely a unique band whose style is hard to describe. It's the fourth album by this Swiss band. I think they're a Swiss band, but I thought maybe they were American. They're led by Manuel Gagne, a Swiss-American musician, although Wikipedia calls it a Swiss band. I thought their last album from 2022 was very good, so I'm looking forward to hearing this one. I also enjoyed the single Clawing Out. Check out Zeal and Ardor if you want to hear some unique sounding blend of black metal with soul music. Nile is releasing The Underworld Awaits on August 23rd. This is technical death metal with doom metal influences, and it's their 10th album. They're an American band. I heard the single Chapter for Not Being Hung Upside Down on a Stake and enjoyed it. That's obviously a pretty intense, brutal title for a song, and the sound of the band matches that, just like growls and intense guitar riffing, fast beating you in the face, just pummeling you. So if you want to hear music like that, check out Nile with The Underworld Awaits. Then Mir is releasing Wheels Within Wheels. This is symphonic progressive rock with pop and metal influences in there. The third album by this Norwegian band. I heard the single Golden Circle. That got me interested in checking out the album. It just has great catchy vocal hooks with both male and female vocalists, really great harmonies, great composition, and great emotion. Check out Mir Wheels Within Wheels. And King Crow is releasing Hopium. It's progressive metal with alternative rock influences, and it's the eighth album by this Italian band. And I heard the single Kintsugi, and the guitar playing, keyboards, drumming, and vocal melodies reminded me a lot of Leprous, except the vocals are lower. I think fans of Leprous will like this band, so that's why I'm checking it out. And the last one for August 23rd on my list is Simone Simons with Vermilion. This is symphonic metal, and it's the debut solo album by this Dutch singer who's known for being the lead singer of Epica. And I'm not usually into this style of symphonic metal that much, but I heard that Arjen Lucassen of Ayreon fame wrote all the music, played the guitars and synths, and produced the album. And I'm a big fan of Ayreon and Star One and other work of Arjen Lucassen, so that got me interested in checking this out. Now onto the last day on my calendar here for this video. It's August 30th, and the album that I am most excited for in July and August, and maybe the album that I'm most excited for that has a date for the rest of the year is Leprous and their album Melodies of Atonement. This is, I guess it's progressive metal, but it's got art rock, synth pop, alternative, experimental influences, some of that black metal and death metal vibes, but they kind of have abandoned the harsh vocals that they did in their earlier days. They've only used it very sparingly on their more recent albums, but they still have that like darkness from their early black metal, death metal influences and some of that avant-garde metal. But they're really being a lot more accessible now, but still kind of artsy and proggy and synth pop, like very unique sound. You definitely know a Leper song when you hear it, and the vocals are really the standout, unique factor here. Einar Solberg is a very distinct vocalist, has a very high-pitched voice, very powerful voice, definitely an acquired taste. But once you get used to Einar Solberg, he's one of the greats of prog rock and prog metal vocals. Now this is their 8th album. They're a great Norwegian band. I love Leprous. They have to be in my top 40 favorite bands of all time list, I would think. And I think they have potential of rising up in my favorite bands list as well. Everything they've released after their first demo, Silent Waters, which was good, but a little rougher production wise, still good. But everything they've released since Silent Waters has been at least like a near masterpiece for me. And I think their 4-album run from Bilateral to Melina are all masterpieces, some of the best albums in progressive metal and progressive rock, worthy of like a top 200 of all time list. I've seen them live. They put on an amazing show. Since I'm such a big fanboy of them, this is my most anticipated album of 2024 that's not out yet. And based on the quality of the 2 singles I heard, Atonement and Silently Walking Alone, I'd be shocked if this doesn't end up in my top 10 albums of the year at the end of the year. So yeah, I'm really excited for Leprous, Melodies of Atonement. And then there's Bent Knee releasing their 7th album called 20 Pills Without Water. They're an American art rock band, very kind of quirky and avant-garde. They've got Baroque pop and alternative and indie rock influences. I'm a fan of this band, but I wasn't very happy with the last Bent Knee album called Frosting from 2021. I really hope this album gets them back on form to making music that I would enjoy. They have great female vocals by Courtney Swain. It's too bad to see that Ben Levin is no longer in the band because I like the vibes he brought. I heard the single Illiterate here. It sounds better than what they were doing on Frosting, but still not quite their peak material for me. Their 3-album run from Shiny Eyed Babies to Land Animal was an excellent run. So I'm really hoping they can get back to that level and that vibe, but I respect and appreciate that they're going to make whatever kind of music they want to. And I'm going to keep listening, and I'll, re-listen to the ones that I like, and I can just, the ones that I'm not too into, I'll just listen to them once and forget about them. And Winter Sun is releasing Time 2. This is melodic death metal, but it's got a lot of different types of metal in there, like power metal, symphonic metal, black metal, neoclassical metal, folk metal, and progressive metal in there. And this is their 4th album. They're a Finnish band this album's been a long time in the making. I think it's been 7 years since their last album and 12 years since Time 1. There was a lot of drama online about how long this took, since there was a crowdfunding campaign so long ago and no album until now. I think the crowdfunding campaign might have started before, like more than 7 years ago, like before the release of their last album. But I guess now their album Time 2 is finally here. I don't know all the details of the drama with the crowdfunding, but I've definitely seen some comments, discussion, and articles online about that, and about people being very frustrated and worried that their money was just taken. But I'm really glad that people will finally be getting their album Time 2. I know I'll be checking it out. Luckily, I wasn't somebody who had my money held hostage for too long waiting for this. I wasn't part of this crowdfunding, but I will just listen to this on streaming when it comes out there. Time 2, Winter Sun. I like all their other albums, so I think I'll like this. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds is releasing Wild God also on August 30th. This is hard to describe genre-wise. I guess it's experimental alternative rock. It's got this gothic rock, art rock, post-punk, ambient, electronic, blues, and country influence all in there. The 18th album by this Australian band that's just very experimental, genre bending, and hard to categorize. I heard the single Wild Gods ahead of time. The vocals here are definitely going to be the make or break feature for people on this because Nick Cage has a very peculiar way of singing that I'm not sure I fully embrace, but it is interesting and the music is fascinating too. So I'm going to check it out. And the last album on my list for today's video is Amiensis and their album Reclamation Part 2. This is progressive, atmospheric, melodic black metal with death metal influences, and it's the 5th album by this American band. I thought the part 1 from earlier this year was excellent, so I'm looking forward to this. It has mostly harsh vocals, but some nice female clean vocals too from time to time. So check out Amiensis Reclamation Part 2. And that's it for my list of albums I'll be listening to in July and August. I'll probably end up listening to even more than that. I may be listening to too much music. As you can see, I'm at like, well, when I finish listening to all these, it'll be 259, I guess, albums that I've heard so far this year, which is a lot. But so I'm definitely keeping busy listening to music. I just, I kind of listen while I do chores and work and stuff. So I'm usually multitasking, but or driving or something like that. But sometimes I try to focus on it and really like digest it. Let me know down in the comments which of these albums I mentioned today you're most excited for, and if there's anything else coming out in July and August or anytime this year that you think I'll be interested in. And stay tuned for next time. Peace out.